Hi, this is Bob Jordan, author of How They Did It, Billion-Dollar Insights from the Heart of America. I'm really pleased to be speaking with Wendi, now I'm going to mispronounce your last name.
No worries. Esger.
Wendi Esger, who is the president and founder of Leadhead, got that right, which I love, and I love the, your tagline, heavy thinking. I find your business fascinating, which is ideation for major corporations as well as for entrepreneurs. We can get into that, but one of the things that fascinates me about you is creating Family Off Track, which is a brilliant idea, so you have to tell me what's Family Off Track.
Will do. All right. So ideation means I'm coming up with new products and services for companies, new value concepts for companies, and Family Off Track is the perfect embodiment of how I turned that inward in my own personal life. So Family Off Track, in a nutshell, was my husband and I taking our kids out of school for 6 months in an RV traveling around the United States. We had corporate sponsors for the journey. We video blogged. There were 15,000 people watching on Family Off Track. And
there are not a lot of families that get sponsors.
That is true. So
families and sponsorship doesn't tend to go together. That's a very entrepreneurial thing to do.
That is, and I think because of my background and because of the fact that I invent products, and that's how I started Leadhead, was with actually inventing products. And in doing that, you understand what needs to go into the designing and the inventing of whether it be a service concept or whether it just be an actual journey concept, which was this. So first came the name, Family Off Track. It was a time for our family to just get off track. You know, my husband was in the real estate business. You can only imagine what was going on in our world, you know, as he's coming home and saying, wow, we could really lose the business. I, as a creative and innovation consultant and as an idea person, start to feel literally giddy, elated. And I'm thinking to myself, Wendi, you witch? Like, are you wishing for your husband's failure? No. All I saw was big, fat, juicy opportunity. So we had him to ourselves for a moment in time. Our kids, boy, boy, girl, 12, 9, and 6. They still like to be with us. Nobody was in high school yet. Nobody was in college yet. And I just felt like this was an opportunity to do something completely off track and out of the box, which is what I crave and love. So that was the impetus for the journey.
And how long did it take you to convince your husband?
Oh, please. He's looking at me, he's like, now I know, you know I love you because of the way you think. He's like, but this, you've gone off the deep end. I'm losing my company and you're asking me to run away. Because the first idea was, let's go to another country and learn another language. And so he's like, how could you possibly think that I would be able to do that?
Did he feel any better when you said, honey, it's okay, I've got sponsors who are going to pay us to leave?
Well, I kid you not. I think we both felt, I know I felt the onus and somewhat of the pressure to prove that this was not just a boondoggle. This is not just like, hey, we're going on a journey, you know, we're going on an RV vacation.
How did you get the sponsors?
So the sponsors, the way I conceived of it was, okay, name the thing, Family Off Track. Get the website, brand it, build the website, begin to get press. I knew immediately if I were able to get some good quality press hits, and we got one from the Sun-Times, and then NPR wanted to do a radio interview. And once we got some juicy enough hits, that's when I went to the sponsors, because if you get to a marketing-minded person at these companies, Geico was one that I went to, and I specifically talked to the person in their RV division, in their power sports division, and they have marketing objectives, and I knew that I could help with their marketing objectives because I was already gaining traction with the press. So I'm like, what's the messaging that you're trying to get out there to RV owners? And he said, we want them just to know that Geico does RV insurance. So then I would say, okay, anytime I'm talking to whoever I'm talking to, that's part of the messaging I'll be able to give. Then they took it one step further. They were terrific because they said, you know, you're like the poster children for RV travel. When you get to those campgrounds that are really well populated in some of the major, you know, near Bryce National Park or Zion, or some of these major RV traveling places. We just want you to throw, dinner on Geico, or like, do you just do, an ice cream social or something, anything you think of that would be fun. We'll sponsor it. You just give out, we've got all these Geico tchotchkes that he gave us, and that's a win-win for everybody. So we were helping them get the message out.
That's great.
And we were going to wrap the entire RV, by the way. It was going to be a full, with the gecko on the top,
Right.
and the whole. We didn't end up doing that. We had some magnetic signage on the Prius that we were towing behind the RV that said Geico.
The
But they,
Geico Prius, got it.
The Geico Prius.
Okay, and you had 15,000 people who were following your blog.
Right.
And so you ended up every night writing the blog at midnight.
Right. So I can't decide what I feel about how that thing grew, because of course that was my goal, and then so be careful what you wish for, because it started to eat into the precious time of what that journey was about, which was connecting with your family and having this time that can never be taken away. So they would all go to sleep at 10, 11 o'clock, and I was up until 1 or 2 o'clock every morning doing that video blog, because once it got a following, I felt sort of obligated to these people who were logging on, that I
Right.
should actually.
And your video blog is still up at familyofftrack.com.
Familyofftrack.com. You can see where we almost tipped over the RV off the edge of a cliff, or a ravine, I should say. I don't want to embellish. It was a ravine.
That's okay, a ravine cliff.
A cliff.
Now, has Family Off Track, has that project venture website, has that helped Leadhead, your day job?
Well, it absolutely has, because first of all, there were people. We had some production company interest to the site. I've actually had companies that have just moms that found Family Off Track that happen to be in corporate America, that then got to Leadhead and have hired me to do ideation work. So that's a good segue. And I think, as you pointed out, that and I wasn't really seeing the forest through the trees, but Bob had said it. You actually are practicing what you preach. I mean, you are. That is just a good example of what you do, and you took it into your own space.
So, final
and
question.
There's a book, right in the book. There's going to be. I mean, I don't know when or where, but I know that Family Off Track is going to be a part of what I do forever, and it's certainly a part of how I talk to people and to companies about talking about. Take those risks.
Yeah, no, it's a great part of who you are. So, final question. You had to take your kids out of school for 3 months, and no problem taking them out. But then when they got back in school the next year, were they behind?
Well, we were certainly concerned, because my husband and I are not teachers. So we were definitely thinking, how are we going to even keep up with their schoolwork? So we decided not to bring any of their schoolwork with us. And if you investigate the homeschooling laws in your state, you will find out if you need to keep up with their schoolwork, or if it's your legal right to homeschool your children. All very interesting things to look into. But our one mantra the whole time, the only way we taught our children the entire time, was wherever we were, National Park, museum, going on a hike, we would start by just saying, everybody, including myself and my husband, everybody find one thing you're curious about. And that's what drove the learning. And when they came out, sometimes it had nothing to do with where we were. We were in the Lincoln Museum. Somebody was interested in, Formica and laminate. So they looked that up and they learned more about that. And that's how we taught them. And when we got back into the public school system, they didn't lose a grade or anything. They went to the next grade to a T. Each teacher said, what you did for your children, you'll never even realize how far you have catapulted them into the love of learning and into the ability to make connections to what they learn. And that's what I think our goal was. Without even knowing it, that was what our goal was.
That's wonderful. That's a home run. Wendi Yezger, CEO of Leadhead, thank you so much.
You are very welcome.